and welcome back to Andertons TV. My name is Oz and I'm here with...
Lucas is here from SSL.
And we're looking at some USB audio interfaces. Ooh, exciting, exciting.
We're going to go through the entire range of SSL interfaces, but we're going to start off with our sort of entry-level stuff. And this is the SSL 2, and we'll have a look at the 2 Plus in a second as well. So the 2 and 2 Plus are both 2-channel audio interfaces running over USB-C, and they're bus-powered. USB 2, and we've got some sort of differences with sort of headphone monitoring between the two units. So the 2 here, we've got 2 mic pre's. They're also line inputs and high Z, so if you want to track your vintage keyboard, your bass guitars, anything else like that, you can instigate the high Z button. We've then got our gain control, super clean preamps, they sound really, really nice, and then we've also got the 4K button. Now this goes back to our legacy of big SSL consoles from the 80s and 90s. The 4K is essentially mirroring our 4KE, 4KG sort of harmonic distortion characteristics. So we can take a really boring recording, I think it's safe to say that, and we can sort of give it some more...
It's the spice button.
Some vibe, yeah.
Okay, fine.
So it's going to add a little bit of harmonic distortion and a bit of a high frequency lift. Honest to God, just stick it on and just never take it off. You can see we've got the overhead on the 12 here, it's got the same thing. You hit these, they go red, and you're just in love with it. That's it, that's all you need. They sound great. We've got our monitor controller, big blue knob. There you go, it turns it up and down. It goes all the way to 11. I like that.
Oh, that is cool actually, I never noticed that, yeah.
All the way to 11. And on the 2 here, we've got our monitor mix, and we can change this between the input and the USB playback. So USB playback being our DAW playback, coming from Logic, Ableton tools. And then if we want to do 0 latency, if we switch it to input, that is going to be direct from the input channel straight to the headphone output. So great if we're just sort of playing along and we want to hear exactly what we're playing. And then the nice thing is we can mix this. So what we do in our DAW is take the input channel maybe out of the headphone output mix, balance the input to USB, and then we've got our 0 latency against the DAW playback. So if you've got a little bit of latency in the DAW, which you're probably going to have if you've got loads of plugins going on, this way you can do 0 latency and you've got no issues. You're on time, you're there. We've then got our phones control, and on the 2 we've got a single headphone output. We've got our sort of stereo output for our main speakers, and then our headphone output. Now, we'll move that to the side. Now the 2 Plus builds on this. So we've got the same thing. We've got our 4K buttons, we've got our 2 channels. We've then got our phones A and phones B. So we've got a secondary phones control. We set that out of the output, and we've got our headphones A and B. We can either have this controlling the outputs 3 and 4, because we've got a second pair of outputs for a second pair of headphones, a second pair of monitor speakers, or we can use that for line outputs if you're sending out to any other gear. You can do a bit of a loop back thing where we send the output out to some hardware, then back in on the line inputs if you were doing a hardware mix out to a compressor or a mixer or something really cool like that. And we've got our volume controls. We've also got an additional RCA connection, so if you want to output this to a DJ setup, if you were recording something live with DJing and you can put it back out to your mixer, you've got those connections there as well. And obviously we've got our jack outputs here, and we've got MIDI in and out as well, so we can do MIDI control. That is it. So the 2 Plus, they're really, really effective just to stick in your backpack. They're always handy. Bus powers, you don't need any additional power. They sound great. We're starting with our little ones, then we go up to the 12.
Okay.
And you've got a top-down shot of this, so
I do.
Gives a little bit more control. Same thing as the 2 and 2 Plus, we've got our channels, but this time we've got 4 mic pre's on the unit. So we're doubling our inputs. But you're asking me why is it called 12, I'm guessing? Yeah. Because that doesn't make sense, it's not the SSL 4. We've got ADAT, that's what we're talking about with the 12. So we can add in an additional 8 preamps via the ADAT, and that gives us 12. Now, I'll go and show you the mixer headphone controls that we've got in a second on the screen capture. But in essence, we've got the same functionality. We've got our line input, we've got high pass filters, we've got our phantom. Instead of having a high Z per channel, we've got 2 high Z inputs at the front labeled instrument 1 and 2. So you just whack that in there, they become the high Z inputs, so when we're doing sort of high Z recordings, they go through there, or we can just additionally do it with line. Obviously turn the line on, then the high Z. If we haven't got line on, it's just going to go through the mic pre. Simple, yeah?
Yeah, I'm with you.
We've also got our 2 headphone outputs. This time we've only got headphone volume. We don't need to do anything else with that. Now, we've got 3 buttons down the side here. We've got cut and alt, and now these are assignable controls within 360 that we're going to look at in a second. We then got a talk button, which we've got a built-in talk back, which is really cool.
Nice.
And that goes directly to the headphone outs, or we can route that within the 360 mixer, and yeah, that's really cool. So we've also on the back, we've got our monitor outputs, 1, 2 for our mains, 3 and 4 for our B set. We've got MIDI in and out, we've got our mic pre's, but also on the front, these are our headphone outputs. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, headphones 1 and 2, 2 being 3 and 4. They equate to 8 outputs. So as well as being outputs 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the back, we can change the headphone outs to be line outputs,
right,
or unbalanced outputs.
Okay.
So we can do some output gear back in. What's really cool is these are DC coupled. So we can actually control modular gear with this as well.
Sick.
So every output can be DC coupled, so send CV voltage out via Ableton CV tools, or if you've got a modular rig. Really, really cool for just getting your modular gear straight in. So control it with the headphone outputs turned into line output DC coupled, and then record your modular back in on different channels. And that's how I record my modular at home. I've got everything feeding into the 12. Everything's controlled within Ableton. It's all sort of nicely packaged. And then, of course, the 4K buttons are just in. They're just in, always in, never take them off, they're wicked. Before we start looking at 360, it's just also worth noting the bundle software that we get with these 3 interfaces. Included with both of these is the SSL Drum Strip 2 and Vocal Strip plugins. So that's a really great way to get started, just sort of with the SSL sort of plugin sort of things. You get to keep them. We also give you 3 months of complete access.
Okay.
Now that is SSL subscription to all of our plugins.
Wicked.
So that's the SSL plugins, that's the Harrison plugins, and that's also the Slate Digital plugins. So loads of plugins to get your teeth into. That's 3 months access to all of that. And then there's a sort of a decent price if you want to continue on with that as well. So that's sort of the main things, but we've also got a few other things from some third-party providers that we also just throw in for you to play with. So if we have a look over on the Production Pack website, this is a big sort of fancy picture of everything, but that comes with obviously Vocal Strip, Drum Strip 2, complete access like we discussed. We've got BFD player and Pop Essentials LE, so some sort of hybrid drum sounds. SonarWorks Sound ID, so when you're looking to get started with all this, you're going to go, oh, my mix sounds great, but my room sounds awful. We can use Sound ID to correct that, so SonarWorks is wicked just for sort of re-correcting the room. You've got 3 months use of that. Then obviously if you want to carry on, then go through there. We've got Arcade by Output, so there's loads of sort of really funky little synths and sort of ideas to sort of kickstart inspiration for new songs. Anteros Auto Tune, so for when I do my vocal overdubs,
yeah, me too.
Need that.
Absolutely.
And then, well, yeah, Amplitude SE, so we've got some guitar modelling, and then we go on to NI Hybrid Keys and Complete Start. So if we want to emulate this beautiful whirly that's behind us, we can utilise Hybrid Keys and get a sound of that as well. We've also got Live 11 Lite, so you can just get started with that. So it comes with a DAW for a couple of months, you can get used to that as well. AAS bundle sessions, we've got Lizard Lounge, there's Ultra Analog, so we've got old school sort of Model D type sounds, really cool stuff. And then Strum, so acoustic guitar, electric guitar sort of emulation. And for when I play guitar, we've got Melodyne Essential just to bring all of that back into tune. And for when I sing, what's really cool is using a bit of Melodyne before you hit the Andreas stuff.
Yes.
So you've got 2 levels of
layers,
pitch
yeah.
fixing, because that's how much I need, ladies and gentlemen. Then we've got 1.5 gigs of sort of samples, just get you started, start building a track. So that all of that comes with the 2 Plus and 12 just to sort of kick off if you're brand new to making music.
It's definitely worth
wicked stuff.
considering when you're looking at the price of these things as well. It's like think about the amount of stuff you get on top of this like, hardware, which is already a pretty good proposition already.
I think to be honest, if you bought Drum Strip 2 and Vocal Strip, it's more expensive than buying one of these. So if you just want to buy the plugins,
if you're just considering
get a free interface.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're considering the software already, this is the way to. Okay.
It's just a really nice sort of coverage of everything getting this music production. So 2, probably if you're kickstarting your own sort of music career solo. 2+ if you and a friend want to make some music. And then when you finally join a band, the 12 will do everything.
If you're pretending to be serious about music.
And then when you are serious, we're going to move on to the big stuff in a bit.
Okay.
So yeah, cool. And now we'll jump over to 360 and show you 12.
Let's do it.
Now 360 that I'm hoping we're going to see on screen in some capacity now, is our brain of the 12. So this is running in parallel to this being connected. We can use the 12 completely standalone, and I'll show you how we do that in a second, but the real power of the 12 is in 360. So
is this specific to the 12, or is this all
this
SSL
360
stuff?
is all of SSL's 360 enabled hardware.
Okay,
so at the moment that is the 12, and that is also our door controllers. So we've seen it before, the 360 controls, UC1, UF8 and UF1 that you'd have seen in the previous video I did with you guys.
Yep.
And the 12. So we've got in the mixer here, so we've got our control, we see that our 12 is sort of on the home page here. If we go over to the 12 tab, this now shows us our mixer. And as you can see, there's already a signal coming through, and that is our talkback because I've flick the talkback on and off.
Nice.
Which is really cool. So this is a configurable window, and what I've got here is my analog inputs 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I can change these between being stereo and mono, so we can gang them together. So I can stereoize 1, 2, 3, 4, or we can have them as individuals. Now you'll see on, obviously we've got nothing going in at the moment, but these are our metering, and we can then also see if I've got my phantom, my line or my high pass filter sort of engaged. We've then got sends. So we can send these to headphones A and B, and also our line outputs 3 and 4. So this is really cool if we want to do our low latency headphone mixing directly off of here. The input comes into the analog inputs, and we can send it directly to the headphone outputs. And then we can obviously do our parallel door mix to headphones in the same way without getting into latency issues. We can add pan control to that, so I can send it to the left or to the right, or I can send it to the middle. And then I've got essentially a trim control going to that output, the headphones or the line 3 and 4, and we've got mutes. That's the same for headphone B, and line outputs 3 and 4 there. We've then got our overall master fader control, so that is our output trim going to the master out. This isn't door fader input, so the door level is coming from your gain staging, not from your fader here.
Right.
And the same for the solo. This isn't going to affect your door, this is only going to affect your monitoring pathway.
Yes.
So you're not going to mess up your mix by sort of doing
Similarly
that.
to like console and stuff like that.
Exactly. If we go over to this side here, I can then see my additional digital inputs, and these would be the ADAT inputs 1 to 8. Same controls to headphones with panning and levels and our overall fader level. And we can hide bits that we're not using. So obviously at the moment we've not got any inputs, we've not got any of that, but I've got my playback returns. So within my door, I can now send my playback tracks from Pro Tools to these 4 buses. Now these 4 buses can then be sent to the headphones or the line outputs. So I can have my master mix going out to my master out, or if I flick over in a second to tools, you'll see my playback tracks going playbacks 1 to 2. Now let's jump over to tools, my session, and we'll show you how to build like a headphone mix out of what we've got.
Sounds good.
You're over in tools, hit play. So we're not hearing anything yet, because when I go over to my monitor mixer, basically, I've got my playback return. So I've got 4 internal buses that are utilizing sort of the 4 channels outputs here. So we can either send them directly to the outputs, or what I'm doing here is using the faders and the sends. So I've got sends for headphone A and B, line output 3 and 4. I can build headphone mixes directly off of 360.
Right, okay.
So this is our zero latency plus sort of DAW headphone mix management. So I can either just whack these up and to the master. So I can do a headphone balance there. Well, a master balance here, so for our speakers. Or utilising these sends, I've got my headphones, so I can then start to dial these into headphone A and headphone B. So then our headphones have got different mixes.
Yeah.
Or I can start sending stuff out to my lines 3 and 4, and we can process them in a way. I'll send my drums out to a drum sort of compressor, bring it back in onto the line inputs of 1 and 2, and I can do some parallel compression.
Or maybe one of these later, something like that.
Or, that's a lovely segue. He's like, he's a pro.
I wouldn't call myself that any day of the week. We're gone.
So we're going here from 12 up to our new Pure Drive preamps. Now, we're talking about interfaces here today, but these are a bit of a new thing.
They look the business.
They are wicked, they're really cool. So these are our 19-inch rack preamps in 2 flavours. Octo and quad units, obviously an 8-way and a 4-way mic preamp 19-inch rack system. These are taken in essence from our Origin console. So as we were talking about the 4K button on our 12 here, where these are an inspiration of the sound of the 4K consoles from the 80s and 90s, these are lifted from our console inspired by the 4K.
Which you are a big fan of.
Which I'm a massive fan of. There's something so nice and magical about just diving in on an analog console. And
I wouldn't know.
But the nice thing about this, and this is it, you can get the console sound and feel through these rack preamps. So what we've got is our clean pre taken from the Origin. The idea is what goes in is what comes out.
Yeah.
But in a similar way to our Duality console,
you got the drive stuff.
We've got the drive stuff, and this is it. So in our Duality, we've got VHD.
Okay.
In Origin, we've got a single drive channel, and what we've got here is the pure Origin clean channel. We've got the drive control, the classic drive taken directly from the Origin console, and then if I hit that, that's our classic drive, and then if I hit that again, it goes green, and that is our asymmetrical drive, and this is a brand new drive circuit for this unit. Drive in its classic sense is a second order harmonic push. We're going to get a little bit more low mid saturation. It is gain dependent, so the more we drive in, the more we're going to get. But what's really, really cool is the signal is not driven on input. It is actually a loop back circuit post the preamp.
Okay.
So you can set your level with the clean level, and then you can audition your different drive circuits without changing gain staging.
Right.
So you can really tailor the tonality
it sounds
of your
quite
input.
reactive, doesn't it? I mean, I feel like, okay, bloody hell.
So it's a deep unit. So we've got our second order harmonics with the classic drive, and then when we're in green mode here, that is our third order harmonic. And it's going sort of more the odd harmonic saturation, and the higher up the gain range and higher up the frequency range, you're getting more saturation. You get a really nice haloing effect up the upper mids, and the high frequencies start to sort of really come to life. You can absolutely spank these things, and they'll break up. They break up really, really cool. And with any preamp, you overdo it, you overbake it, they'll start firing at you.
I mean, I feel like these are definitely the kind of things that in the future I think we're going to come back to and do a proper in-depth thing on it, because these are the kind of things you're going to want to hear it. Yeah, you guys are going to want to hear it with a drum kit, maybe a vocals, a guitar, a bass.
A really cool thing I love to do is sticking drum machines to them.
Oh yes.
So yeah, we can do sort of the classic sort of recording a live instrument, but actually sticking your line level stuff through it, because we've got a line option. So they're not just mic preamps, we've got line inputs that we can saturate, stick a drum machine through it, and start to give it the sort of the really heavy push, like we used to do with the old school Mackie desks for jungle drum and bass. You can get that level of saturation, but you can really, really like tailor it, which is really, really cool. So I guess I should probably give you a quick overview of what we got, just so everyone knows what we're doing.
Go for it.
So obviously we've got a gain control. With that we've got a trim control, and that's how we sort of tailor the sound of the pre. So we can really drive the gain, then bring it back with the trim just to find that nice happy place. We're not clipping up converters. We've got our sort of phase coherence. We can just flip polarity. If I hold that down, that's just going to do our phantom power. and obviously hold that down and take that off. Trim controls a double button as well, so if I hold that down, that's going to go to line mode, so when we're sticking our drum machines in here. Otherwise, if that is off, then that is going back to mic pre, and then you see if I click it quickly, that's our high pass filter just for tidying up the low end, keep our mix nice and clear. We've then got our different drive controls, so we've got our clean, sort of pure drive.
Yep.
Hit it again, and that is engaging our drive control. This way, if I hold that down, I can then click between our classic drive and hold it again. That's our asymmetric drive. We've also got here our impedance switch. Now, this is going to change us through 4 different levels of impedance. Now, what that does is gives a new voicing to our dynamic and passive ribbon mics. So what it does is, the lower the impedance, it's going to accentuate the characteristics of that microphone. So at our highest level impedance, that is just going to be clean.
Yeah.
It's going to load it properly. As we drop that down, we get a bit of sort of power sag, similar to like how your guitar amps would work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's just going to, where we've got a little bit of a low range, a low mid bump, maybe on an old school D12, it's going to sort of bring that up. It's going to sort of, if you've got a bit of a dip in the mids, it's going to bring that down and really shape the tone of the mic, so you can get really creative with that. Add that to the drive circuit, and you're starting to get loads of creative possibilities about how you're going to use these mic pre's to bring a whole new element of...
And whatever gives you more options is going to be better for every time,
Exactly.
every musician and producer. So it's like,
Exactly. The other thing we've got here is that these also are USB-C.
Oh, sick.
They are interfaces. So what we can do is essentially plug this in with USB-C and track directly over the USB-C at 32-bit.
I like that a lot. That's cool.
Now, this obviously means there are some options. We've also got ADAT on both of these.
Okay.
So we can take ADAT out of either of those, 8 channels or 4 channels, into our 12. So we can start to create a larger interface out of our 12 plus these. Or I can just use these as straight recording lines, USB-C in. We can also use them in what we call interface mode, where there is the outputs of the line outputs are going to give us some, basically we can use the ADAT in and out as headphone sort of return monitoring, and we can build that in that way. Or we can aggregate the devices. So on, unfortunately, Windows users, you can't do this, but Mac users, we can stack these. So we can plug in all of these, and this is what I've got at the moment. Basically, I've built a 24 channel interface by stacking 16 in.
Yeah.
Then I've also got the ADAT options if I want to add those in as well. So we can add an extra sort of ADAT channel pathway into both of these, stack these into the 12, aggregate all of that, and you've got, well, as many as you can plug in is going to give you loads of in and out. So we can use all our outputs of the 12 here for my headphone monitoring. We can utilise 360 to build that headphone out, but then we've got a scalable way of building loads of inputs and sort of interfacing for ADAT via the pure drives. Loads.
Sick.
Loads of stuff. Yeah, it's wicked.
Well, I definitely still think we should come back. Like at one point, you'd come back and we'll proper go through it and give you guys some examples. Sounds wise, I want to hear the drive as well.
Yeah.
I mean, anything with drive makes me happy on the inside. So
So everything from entry level, the 12s are like nice midway through it, and if you buy the 12, you're not then stuck. You can expand it with the ADAT. And then you go into the pure drive.
That's what I like. I mean, I like how as you can step up through the ranges, everything still integrates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's really cool about this stuff. But I mean, either way, like links below for all of this stuff, by the way, and just kind of check anything out. And like I say, I'm sure we'll get Luke in again to go through some of this pure drive stuff.
Yeah, fantastic.
There's definitely more left to explore with this stuff. 100%. But anything else you want to go through?
No, I think that's probably enough of an overview that you get an idea of what we've got here.
It's speedy, you know.
But yeah, you don't want too much information. You've got all the links here to go and have a look on Andertons to see the specific specs. Quickly to say, 192K 24-bit, 32-bit on the 12 and the pure drives.
Right. And also, if you do want to see any more about the Pure Drive stuff, there is some videos that SSL have got on their, like, directly on their own channel.
I spent a very, very hot summer's day last year at Stowe House recording an amazing Steinway grand piano and a drummer in this magnificent music hall. Reverb for days.
Yes.
But it was a really, really nice way to demonstrate the different sort of settings. So we go through each of the drive channels on the grand piano. So like, I mean, why would you drive a grand piano? But it sounds.
I mean, who knows, man? That sounds really cool in my brain. But it's also like, maybe that's the best way to see what these things do, rather than me playing some dodgy guitar through it. So that will be in the links below as well if you want to check that out. And these will be available. So please, links below. Everything's available. Andertons. Luke's available at Andertons too. You can buy him if he wants you to.
I'm not expensive.
Subscribe. Nice one. Thank you, Mr. Luke.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Take it easy.
Easy.
Bye.